there and taps his hands and you're just sitting there and sits there and rocks back and forth in the chair in a bit of another murderer or whatever he is convicted up to this point of a case, not in handcuffs, not in shackles, one or the other or both, and in orange.
Excited utterance here. This is Hella, and I haven't done a Kohberger stream in a little while. It's been a little while, but the most recent stream I did, I think, was about the motion to continue by Bryan Kohberger's counsel and Taylor. And guess what? I'm continuing the motion to continue saga. Finally, the state has come forth with an objection. And I was starting to wonder if they were going to. Yeah, I was starting to wonder whether or not the state even wanted to object to the motion to continue. I thought perhaps Santa was like, yeah, sure, let's have a continuance. But then I thought better of that, because if there was a continuance, that would go closer to Christmas time, and that's a busy time of year for him. We can't have it going around November, December. That's bad. That's bad for Bill Thompson. So unless it went all the way till next year, we can't have that. Can't have that. There'll be too many people getting very, 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 very angry about that one. Now, the other thing I streamed about recently was the very heinous and nasty publicity by Dateline. So I'll just remind you about that, because that's important to the motion to continue. And hello, Mavka. Maybe her cold heart towards her viewers has overcome her, or she has the wrong date again. No, I'm here. Hello. It's super cold here. My hands are freezing. They're like numb. They are numb. And bonjour, John. I will have a mushroom update for you maybe tomorrow. Miss Patterson is off the stand now. Okay, let's get into it. We are not streaming to X today. I'm tired of streaming to X. I'm tired of all of the fake viewers on X that do fake for me. Hey, Breen, how are you? And hello to Mr. Jackson, Orange Cat. Hello, how is he today? I tuned into Dateline, yet no date. You forgot to swipe right. Right, so I'm going to remind you guys about, where is it? Okay, so remember this. He's a villain by the devil's law. He's a killer just for fun. Right? Guilty. Apparently, Bryan listened to this Britney Spears song, slowed down, by the way. It wasn't even the original. It wasn't even the Britney Spears sounding one, the cutesy sounding one. It was one that was all slowed down and sounding all evil-like. They reported on that. And remember this? Remember Holly? Remember Holly? Remember, look at the look on her face. She's so traumatized because she met him at a pool party and she was so traumatized by meeting him that she gave him her number. And then afterwards, he sent her this just really creepy text message that said, "Hey, I'm pretty sure we spoke about hiking trips yesterday. I really enjoyed that activity. So please let me know!" Exclamation mark. Thanks. And Holly found that to be too formal and didn't respond. And you know what Bryan didn't do? He didn't bother her after that. But that shows him to be really, really creepy and therefore capable of a quadruple homicide. She looks cuter in other frames, Jesus. Yeah, I picked that one. All the other things that came out in the Dateline trashy special was these selfies from Bryan's phone. Now, the reason I'm showing you all this, reminding you of all this, is because it's important. It's in the motion to continue by the defense. And there's a lot of other things in the motion to continue by the defense. But I'll tell you right now, Judge Hippler is going to go, nope, 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 to all of those things. And we'll get to that in a minute. But this is just a reminder of what was in the Dateline special. So these things were on Bryan Kohberger's phone. They are absolutely not supposed to have been in the public forum. There is a gag order. There is a non-dissemination order. These things have been leaked to the press by the state. There is no question about it. Someone from the state who has access to that phone and to the discovery has given somebody from the media access to these images, right? And they've been presented to the public, these images, right? This search for a K-bar knife sheath, this message, Holly's name so that they could interview her, the fact that he listened to this song, there's a lot of other things as well, right? So that Dateline special was crafted with information that they should not have had, but because it came from his phone. This is important. Oh, hello, doggy. This is important. Hello, half Irish. How are you? Exactly. It was a guilty movie, I guess. It was made like the defense has put into their motion to continue, with dramatic music, with undertones of expertise as well. So there were supposed experts with inside knowledge, which made it look like there was some level of credibility, which just any old YouTuber or novelist or something like that would not have. Now, let's get to the motion to continue, because there's some things in there that I want to point out to you are important and new that aren't being addressed in the state's objection to the motion to continue. So now let's get into that. I need to remove that and present. Stop screen. Sorry, StreamYard won't let me just like flip really seamlessly between these, which is annoying. One day it will, for the amount of money we spend on these things. There we go. Hey, Dinky, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. And hey, full melt hash values. Good to see you too. Let's go. Yep. Okay, so we'll look at the defendant's motion to continue first. And if we go back to the table of contents, we've already been through this. The first few, well, all the way up to point, where is it? The point about the Dateline special, everything before that, all this stuff about needing more time because of his constitutional rights, because his right to effective assistance of counsel, because he's guaranteed effective assistance of counsel because of individualized sentencing proceedings, because his counsel must meet requirements counsel must meet in investigating for merits phase of capital case. So the mitigation phase, therefore, requires more time. Judge Hippler is just going to go, boop, 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 boop. I've already given you plenty of time for all that. Counsel must conduct an exhaustive, unparalleled life history investigation. I've given you plenty of time for all that, he'll say. Right? He'll say, we've done all this. We've done all this. We've done all this. Counsel requires additional time to fulfill the minimum requirements described above. Done all this. We've done all this. Right? But this, a continuance is necessary to remedy the prejudice of highly inflammatory publicity released just weeks before the current trial date, including the recent Dateline special and forthcoming book. That's new. That's new, right? But not even everything in this part, page 32, is relevant. Most of it, Judge Hippler will go, well, you know, you're not the first high-profile trial. It's not the first time that there's been inflammatory, prejudicial media around a case. But there's something else in there that's important, and the defense, the state has not addressed in their objection. So let's get to it. Page 32. Right. So a continuance is also necessary to investigate and remedy the prejudice of highly inflammatory publicity released just weeks before the current trial date, including the recent Dateline, NBC special, and forthcoming book. So we're not going to go back through this in great detail, but I've highlighted out the part that's most important. So, hey, Tracy Burton, how are you? Okay, so the leaked materials appear carefully curated to promote a narrative of guilt. So as this court acknowledged in May 15, 2025, document and records hold order, the source of the leak is most likely someone currently or formerly associated with law enforcement or the prosecution team. If that's the case, it raises urgent and serious questions about the objectivity, judgment, and credibility of the individuals tasked with investigating and presenting the state's evidence, particularly those who may be called as witnesses. The identity of those involved, their motives, and any efforts to conceal their conduct go directly to the heart of witness credibility and the integrity of the state's case. Right. So then Ann Taylor goes on to talk about how the episode itself was full of speculative assertions, allegations of sexual motivation, dramatic reenactments and animations depicting the alleged crime, emotional interviews with individuals connected to the alleged victims. And then she talks of how the there needs to be time so that prejudicial effect on potential jurors can dissipate. I don't think that argument's going to hold up, right? Because what are you going to do? Are you just going to delay and delay and delay the trial every time there's some sort of prejudicial media and then it has to dissipate again? That's not going to work, right? There's always going to be some prejudicial media out there. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, but then we keep going, and I kind of wish she had tied this piece up here down to this next piece I've highlighted down there. Now, if we go to, do you remember, they also stated that there's another thing coming out, and it's going to be 16 days before jury selection, and that is this book by James Patterson, right? So the Dateline special, which aired just weeks before the trial date, will not even be the last pre-trial media bombshell. Best-selling crime author James Patterson has written a book about the murders titled The Idaho 4, An American Tragedy, and that will be released July 14. Now, it says here, the publisher boasts of unmatched access to the investigation, including interviews with local law enforcement. That suggests that the apparent Dateline leak was not the only violation of the court's non-dissemination order. No shit, right? Now, a continuance is necessary to fully investigate the leaks. Hello? That's what's really important here. This is not about allowing media attention to dissipate, right? You gotta investigate the goddamn leak. How long is that going to take? Who cares how long it has to take? It has to happen, right? What if it's one of the attorneys? What if it's one of the witnesses? What if it's one of the law enforcement officers who is going to be an expert witness in the trial? This is important. She needs to make a bigger deal of this. Don't you think? Okay, and then we keep going down. I just wanted to highlight Tane. Because I'm 12. Leak needs to be figured out ASAP, or Hippler won't be able to force Dateline to reveal their source. Yeah. For some reason, my phone just started working. Maybe I said Siri or something. That's weird. Anyway, so here, finally she gets to the point. The court has already acknowledged that the Dateline special exposes a likely violation of the non-dissemination order, and Mr. Patterson's purported unmatched access to sources, including local law enforcement, suggests that multiple unauthorized disclosures have occurred. Depending on the results of the investigation into the leaks, a continuation may be inadequate. Once the sources of the leaks are identified and the full extent of misconduct revealed, the violations could warrant remedies more serious than delay. At the very least, however, a continuance is essential to allow the extremely prejudicial impact to partially subside and to give the court and defense time to fully investigate and address the scope of violations. I don't love the way she's written all this, because she's kind of broken up the main argument with all this stuff about needing media attention to dissipate, which is never going to happen, right? But let's go to the state's opposition, which is only just dropped right? They've left it till the very last minute. And there's a lot of snark in the state's opposition. If we just go right to the beginning. Comes now, State of Idaho, by and through the later county prosecuting attorney, and submits the following opposition to defendant's motion to continue the motion. It is time to try this case. Okay. Righto. Good on you, Santa. And then he just goes on to blah, blah, blah about every single damn thing that's ever happened. And overall, the record between the court shows that the defendant's investigation has already plowed the necessary ground. While defendant is fully entitled to due process, this court should exercise its broad discretion to deny the defendant's 11th hour motion. The defendant cannot show good cause or prejudice, even under the heightened, non-binding ABA standards he seeks to impose on the court. His counsel's resources investigation to date have been adequate. Even setting aside the defense team still has more time to prepare its mitigation phase. Moreover, Idaho's constitution also grants the victim the right to timely disposition of the case. So basically what he's doing now is he's addressing everything in the first sort of 15 to 17 points of the defendant's motion to continue, which, P.S., I don't think Ann Taylor ever thought were going to be fruitful, but she had to put it on the record anyway. Right, so they were all about the defendant's constitutional rights to a fair trial, to his right to for his counsel to be prepared, especially for mitigation phase, which is the sentencing phase. Should it come to that, because it is a death penalty case. So she had to put all that stuff on the record, probably knowing full well that wouldn't be successful towards the motion to continue. However, the thing that she probably did think may be successful with the motion to continue is this media stuff, right? Not necessarily just the fact that it's the media, but there has been a breach of the non-dissemination order by the state, and that's a big deal. All right, so let's get now to the part that I want to take you to, which is where I believe Mr. Thompson has messed up. So this is the section where he finally addresses the Dateline leak. It's taken him a while. He gets to page 13. Mavka, are you fighting with Dinky? Dinky, just ignore Mavka. he likes to cause trouble, but he's lovable. Same with you, full melt hash values. Please, you're welcome here in chat. Mavka's just our friendly, lovable local troll. Mav, you crazy. Yeah, right. He is crazy. Hey, Kat, how are you, love? You're not fighting? Really? Do I need to time you out, mate? I really don't want to. Love ya. Copy. Cool. That's how Mavka flirts. Yeah, that's how Mavka flirts. Dear me. I calls for peace. All right. So this is what Bill Thompson has to say in response. Despite intense publicity, the court should exercise its discretion to deny defendant's motion and proceed to trial using its carefully planned jury selection process. There is no doubt that the publicity surrounding this case, including but not limited to a recent Dateline TV show containing non-public evidence, poses challenges for the court and both parties. And then he goes on to say, the state reaffirms its commitment to comply with the court's non-dissemination order to do everything in its power to prevent leaks and to assist in determining which person or persons provided non-public information to Dateline. Oh, isn't that nice of him? Isn't he kind? He's being so helpful, assisting the court in helping them find the person who leaked. Sweet of him. However, defendant's reliance on the Dateline episode to support his motion is misplaced for several reasons. The question of whether the defendant can receive a fair trial is not answered by the amount of and nature of pretrial publicity. Oh, we're going to talk about that, are we? Okay. Rather, it depends on whether a fair and impartial jury can be seated. As the United States Supreme Court has said, to hold that the mere existence of preconceived notions as to the guilt or innocence of an accused without more is sufficient to rebut the presumption of a prospective juror's impartiality would be to establish an impossible standard. It is sufficient if the juror can lay aside his impression or opinion and render a verdict based on the evidence presented in court. Well, we all know from experience that that's bullshit, but fine. That's fine. And he goes and gives some case law. Irwin and Dowd, 1961. Oh, that was a while ago. That was before there was like, was TV even invented? Okay. Accordingly, the Idaho Supreme Court has long recognized that trial courts can successfully select an impartial jury, despite widespread publicity. Was there even widespread publicity in 1961? State versus Windsor, 1985. Okay. And State versus Federley, also 1985, a death penalty case. The Idaho Supreme Court disagreed with the defendant's claim that extensive publicity prior to trial deprived him of the opportunity to be tried before an impartial jury. Because each juror was extensively questioned to determine the degree of their exposure to the pretrial publicity. Defendant's rights were preserved. I'm sure. When the defendant later sought federal habeas corpus relief, the Ninth Circuit examined the voir dire process and found no prejudice, even though on the day of jury selection, the case was covered on the front page of the local newspaper, as well as on TV and radio. You know why? Probably because the potential jurors just said so. They probably went, "Oh no, yeah, I saw those news things on the newsstands, but I just ignored them, and I can be completely unbiased. I promise." And it says here, the Ninth Circuit found it relevant that the materials, that the publicity was not unexpected and focused on the facts of the case, not inflammatory materials. What are we looking at? Number 4. Oops. Number 4 is which one? When the defendant later sought. We're talking about a case in 1985. Anyway, here the court's carefully crafted jury selection process has every chance to produce an impartial jury. Because of the sensitive nature of the court's voir dire procedures, the state will not address the mechanics of jury selection in this public filing. But to suffice it to say, if an individual has been so impacted by the Dateline episode or any other publicity, that they cannot be impartial, they will not be seated as a juror. So how are you going to work that out? You're just going to ask them, excuse me, did you see a Dateline episode about Bryan Kohberger being creepy? Oh, you did? Okay, well, can you be impartial? Yeah? All right, cool. You can stay. So, is that the only thing you saw? Yeah? All right, then that's fine. As long as that's all you saw. You didn't see anything by like Megyn Kelly or Nancy Grace? No? Okay, sure. So we'll just take your word for that. Righto. Yeah, Breed, before 24-hour news and social media. Yeah, okay, we believe you. All right, then. We'll just forget all about it then, shall we? Jesus Christ. Because, you know, there's only like a dude's life on the line here. Like, it's no biggie. No biggie. And I was just waiting for Vallow Daybell to be brought up. Because the second you bring up Vallow Daybell, it's like the most horrendous characters ever. You compare Bryan Kohberger to Vallow Daybell. Like there's any similarity whatsoever between these two people. Indeed, this case is not the Ada County judiciary's first experience with a highly publicized trial in recent years. Like the court in Vallow Daybell's trial, this court is well equipped to select a jury to handle ongoing media coverage and to conduct a fair trial in the Ada County courthouse. Oh, please. Oh, we had a big trial before with the terrible monster. Actually, two. Second, the Idaho Supreme Court has rejected defendants' theory that a continuance is necessary to allow media coverage to dissipate. And again, I kind of feel like that was a really hollow argument from Anne. The allowing media coverage to dissipate. I wish she hadn't gone down that line. It was just silly. Like, media coverage is not going to dissipate. What are you going to do? Put this thing off until like we go back into the dark ages? It was a dumb argument. Does anyone disagree with me on that one? I just feel like it's silly. Like, why? It just undermines her entire argument about this. See, federally 710P2D 1206 federally argues that the trial judge should have granted a continuance to allow the harmful press coverage to dissipate. However, as stated above, there is every indication that an impartial jury was impaneled and that federally received a fair trial. As the court correctly noted at the pretrial conference, delaying this trial will only allow more opportunities for pretrial publicity. There is no reason to think that media coverage in this case will dissipate, so proceeding to trial as scheduled may actually avoid any negative consequences from future publicity. Yeah, he's right. I hate to say Bill Thompson is right, but he was right there. Defendants' dissipation cases occurred in the 1960s and involved communities where it was presumed or demonstrated that residents had already formed opinions about the case based on local media reports. And so, yeah, he's called her out on using cases from the 60s, which Santa just did earlier. So Santa's used cases from the 60s to talk about people not being influenced by the media. But then he's called out Anne for using cases from the 60s to talk about media influence dissipating. Can we all just agree to not use cases from the 60s? How about that? Cases from the 60s, irrelevant. How about that? Ariel. William Thompson and Ashley Thyroid Jennings are up to something. I think the dissipation cases are still the law of the Supreme Court, though. Yeah, look, maybe. But if you're going to start calling people out on using cases from the 60s because they're not relevant in today's society, then like it depends whether the judge is going to take that on board, right? Like they may still be the law of the Supreme Court, but if the trial judge is going to entertain the argument, then like trial judges still look at the case law put before them and decide whether or not they are relevant arguments, right? Like they'll still go, okay, I've looked at that case law and I don't think it's relevant to this situation. Correct? So I think with case law that is that old and we're talking about the media now, then I think there's an argument for excluding cases that are that old when we're currently in a completely different media environment. And I mean, that's up to the lawyers to decide whether or not they're going to include cases like that in arguments like this. But yeah, I mean, if they're going to start picking at each other's use of case law based on the fact that they're so outdated, then I think that's fair. That's a fair argument. Hello, Great 100. Justice for Idaho 4 and the surviving roommates. I agree. Absolutely. Case law is case law, however. It absolutely is. But just like I said, like the trial judge at the time decides whether that case law is relevant. And so the lawyers need to be mindful of that when they're citing it in their arguments. Judges are terrified of making new case law. Sadly, Mavka, stop it. Stop it with the Idaho 3 thing, all right? Okay. I haven't said Mavka stop it for a while. Sometimes I just gotta go, Mavka stop it. Mavka stop it. Right. Defendant's citation to Shepard v. Maxwell, 1966, is inapposite. In that case, the court did nothing to control the carnival atmosphere that prevailed at trial. The defendant did nothing. Oh no, the court did nothing, right? Unlike in this case, in Shepard, the judge did not move the venue for the trial, did not address extrajudicial statements by the parties, and did not regulate how the media operated in the courtroom. Okay. Demonstrate that residents have formed opinions. Okay. Defendants' dissipation cases occurred in the 1960s and involved communities where it was presumed or demonstrated that residents had already formed opinions about the case based on local media reports. See Beck v. Washington 369 U.S. 1962, citing Irvin, where sensational publicity adverse to the accused permeated the small town in which he was tried. The voir dire examination indicated that 90% of 370 prospective jurors and 2/3 of those seated on the jury had an opinion as to guilt. 2/3 of those seated on the jury had an opinion as to guilt. Wow. All right. So we're nearly up to the end, guys. What has Bill Thompson not spoken about? We'll finish it. Here venue has already been moved, and the court will use a much larger pool of potential jurors than in defendant-cited cases. This court is also proceeding in a highly fractured media landscape that bears little resemblance to what prevailed in the 1960s. What happened in defendants' cited cases has no bearing on whether the court can select the sufficient number of impartial jurors in the case. See, he's completely relying on this impartial jurors thing, right? And impartial jurors is a big issue, but it's not the issue that I think Ann Taylor needs to rely on, right? The court should deny defendant's motion because he has not shown that the publicity surrounding the case will prevent a fair trial. That's not the point. That's not the point. This is the point. This is the point. The court has already acknowledged that Dateline Special exposes a likely violation of the non-dissemination order, and Mr. Patterson's purported unmatched access to sources, including local law enforcement, suggests that multiple unauthorized disclosures have occurred. Depending on the results of the investigation into the leaks, a continuance may be inadequate. Once the sources of the leaks are identified and the full extent of misconduct revealed, the violations could warrant remedies more serious than a delay. A continuance is necessary to fully investigate the leaks. See? Her major argument, the most important thing in her entire motion to continue, is about needing to conduct an investigation and identify people who are on the state side who have been involved in a breach of the non-dissemination order, and their entire credibility in this is in question. So if we were to go, hang on, there's even another piece here. The identity of those involved, their motives, and any effort to conceal their conduct go directly to the heart of witness credibility and the integrity of the state's case. And Bill Thompson has ignored that. He's completely goddamn ignored that. The only remote mention of it that he's put into this objection is this. The state reaffirms its commitment to comply with the court's non-dissemination order, to do everything in its power to prevent leaks, and to assist in determining which personal persons provided non-public information to Dateline. Well, when, Bill? When? When's this going to happen, right? Because we're 8 weeks out from trial. We are 8 weeks out from trial, and you've got your witness list ready. You are preparing your case in chief. And what if on that list of witnesses, you've got expert witnesses that are law enforcement officers, and one of them happens to be the leaker? What if one of your attorneys is the leaker? What if one of your investigators is the leaker? What if they all fucking are involved in it? And those involved, their motives, and any efforts to conceal their conduct go directly to the heart of witness credibility and the integrity of the state's case. Bill? Now, there is a hearing on the motion to continue next week. My question is Ann Taylor going to get wrapped up in this side issue of the media attention and whether or not you'll be able to seat an impartial jury, whether or not it's possible to have this this attention dissipate, because that's not going to get a continuance. It's just not. And then it's not going to solve any problems, because this is a problem. Right? This is an actual problem. Or is she going to argue this properly? Misconduct is unlikely limited to an isolated event. Oh, absolutely, Kat. Absolutely. And this has been, let's not kid ourselves, this has been going on for a long time. Right? It's just that now it's very obvious, and Hippler has expressed his distaste about it. So Ann Taylor has used the opportunity to put it on the record for one thing, but also to try and get a continuance. She needs a continuance, right? She needs as much time as she can get. And also, if she, like my take on the matter is, she will bargain also. So this motion to continue, it's a veiled attempt at another strike at the death penalty. So if it's put down here, where is it? Depending on the results of the investigation into the leaks, a continuance may be inadequate, right? So, and also, once the source of the leaks are identified and the full extent of misconduct revealed, the violations could warrant remedies more serious than a delay. In other words, a strike of the death penalty. There's a remedy more serious than a delay. Oh. So she's using ambiguous language, but it's language that states that it's not just, that's not the only thing she's interested in. Yeah. Who is misconduct? You, Mav. You think you'll give a short continuance? I don't think you can go any shorter than about 90 days, isn't it? For something like this, like to run an investigation. And so 90 days would take you to, where are we? August, September, October, November. Imagine if it was at Christmas time, Bill couldn't do it. He just couldn't. Yeah, they have been brazen all along, right? There has been so much information given to the media. And I'm not going to name the person who most of it's come through, because I think you all know. November trial means it starts in mid-January. Well, you mean then the busy season's over for Santa. Did Anne ever take up Hippler's offer for people to help her a while back? Okay, so this is a bit of a sticking point. Hippler is angry at Anne because he said to her, oh, well, I mean, you could always go to the money judge and you could ask for, say, 6 more paralegals. And also because she took on another death penalty case for January, and he's critical of that. But here's the thing. Like, she hasn't done everything perfectly, right? 6 paralegals, and we're talking, 3 dump trucks full of, pack full of paper. Basically, there's the amount of discovery, if you want to put it in physical terms. And then the paralegals need to be trained. But then the other problem is that Anne's not that great of a delegator. She has actually said in court that she likes to review things herself. You can't review everything yourself. And I get it, but you can't. She trusts Eliza Mathos, but she's made some mistakes, Anne. She really has. 6 paralegals in a pear tree. Ballots is the leak, I'm certain, and the judge can't do shit about it. That's a good point. If it's someone, if it's a Fed, yeah, good luck with that. Stop it, man. All right. So, I mean, I'm interested in your thoughts, and put it in the comments as well, guys. Because do you think I'm right here in that this is the main point of this motion? And I wish Anne had written it better, because she has split up her reference to this over. There it is there, and then it's also up here and here and here, and then she's mixed it up with other arguments about this, about the media attention dissipating, which I don't think is going to get her anywhere, right? But her main point, the most important point, the most likely thing to get her a continuance is the need for an investigation to get whoever it is who is responsible for these leaks out of the trial, right? Or held responsible in some way. There needs to be an investigation, and we're 8 weeks out, so therefore it needs to start now. Right? So if that's the most important point, Mr. Bill Thompson has ignored it. Where is his argument? It's not there. And I really, really hope to see this argued well next week by Anne. I hope that she's not steamrolled by mainly Hippler, right? Because this is what's happened in the past. I've seen Hippler actually sit there and make arguments for the state and start to just talk about other issues, like the fact that, but there's been plenty of cases where there's been a lot of media coverage, and the jury can be seated without bias. And there's show me case law where that's not been the case, and she'll go, but this one and this one, but what about Bello Daybell? And he'll just argue for the state, right? She needs to stand up and say, Judge, there is a breach of the non-dissemination order. You gave us an order to preserve all evidence. You know about what's happened with Dateline, and we have told you that there's a book coming out. There's supposedly law enforcement officers who have given over information. There needs to be an investigation now. We're 8 weeks out. Is that long enough? I don't think so. So I'm hoping she stands up to Hippler. She has not been as confident with Hippler as she was with Judge. Anne writes poorly, in my opinion. She's bad at emphasizing her strong points. And this skill at the moment seems like cross, which she seems great at. Yeah, they need help right now. It's like, Andrea, do you want to go and help them? It's tough. It's like, I really believed in that team, and I'm worried. And I've never seen any of these people in a trial situation, so it's it's hard to judge, but I think Hurwitz might be very good. And I mean, Anne can be strong, questioning, but I think Eliza Mathoth is underrated. She's probably the strongest on the defense team, especially in terms of her presence, the way she speaks, also the way she writes. She's strong. But yeah, I feel like they need help right now. And yeah, the fact that the state has gotten this Hurwitz guy in, and Nye is actually quite good too. So I think we'll see less of Bill Thompson and Jennings, thank God, at trial. We'll see more of Hurwitz and Nye. And we'll see Eliza and Taylor at trial. We'll see a little bit of Bicabalo, not that much. Yeah, they need a Lessie. She's likable. Yeah, that's true. But I just feel like she's getting run over right now, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because she's good. She's better than this. She was so much tougher than this back in Ladar County, wasn't she? It's really frustrating. Like, why is she letting them do this? Can't believe it. I agree with Merker. Yeah. Yeah, they need an Alessi or a Jose Baez. Jose Baez to get him off. Someone like that. Someone with real punch. Someone who's just like so sure of themselves. Won't let themselves be walked over. And I feel like Ann Taylor used to be that person. But since the whole move to Boise, something's happened. She's been frightened of. It's really sad to see. Don't like it. Don't like it. Yeah, Jose buys a beat. Amazing. Alessi is very good. Yeah, he is. Okay, great. Thank you guys for hanging out. We will do another one of these after the next hearing and do a bit of a regroup after that. Thank you so much. And my cat is scratching at the door like, why won't you let me in? And also he wants to say hi to Mr. Jackson as well. His little mini me. So hey to Breen's little one. All right, it's time for the song. Where's my song?
Her name was Helen. She was an Aussie. She was a fake lawyer from the future. She got on YouTube and made some live streams. The co-host is Donnie and she dances sometimes. The words are always so loud and because she's an 803. To the attention